Good evening, dear students. Welcome to all of you in this answer writing improvement program by Nishchay IAS. Since the last 2 days, we have been discussing current issues based questions in English medium. At the same time, Yaswant sir, he takes answer writing improvement program questions in Hindi medium. So the program is continuing now in both English and Hindi medium. So let us see the question of today. The question is, discussing the World Network of Biosphere Reserve, discussing the World Network of Biosphere Reserves, discussing the World Network of Biosphere Reserves, World Network of Biosphere Reserves. Explain their importance for India in particular. Explain their importance for India in particular. Importance for India in particular and South Asia in general. And South Asia in general. So you have to write this answer in 250 words. You have to write this answer in 250 words. Okay. So I hope that all of you must be knowing today, November 3rd is the first International Day of Biosphere Reserves. So today is the first International Day of Biosphere Reserve. It may be a probable question in prelims also, while in interview also this kind of information can be asked. You can also use this information in answer related to environment conservation, biodiversity conservation in your main exam also. So November 3rd has been declared as the first International Day for Biosphere Reserve, and beginning 2022, this International Day will be celebrated every 3rd November. That's why one of article it appeared in the Hindu, and based upon the article we have taken this question, because UPSC has now started a trend of asking specific questions from international institutions also. So this question, it is related to international institutions also, which is in GS paper 2, as well as it is also related to environment and conservation, biodiversity aspects, which comes under the paper 3 of general studies. At the same time, it is also a platform for regional cooperation and partnership. So it comes both under paper 2 as well as paper 3. So how to start this question? It is a simple question where you have to write about what is World Network of Biosphere Reserves, how are they declared, what is their importance, and what is the present status as of now. So that will cover the first part of the question. Now, the second part of the question is asking to explain their importance for India in particular and South Asia in general. As we are seeing, as we are observing a tendency in UPSC in the recent years, the questions are becoming more specific, and sometimes they are growing the context and scope of the questions. Like we have bilateral relations and we have international relations in the paper 2 of general studies of the civil service exam. Now, these kind of regional cooperation and global cooperation networks, they are also important for particular region as well as the entire world. So the question may be asked in Indian context also and the South Asian context as a collective also, because we know that the South Asian geographical features and the geographical other specifics, they are more or less common. The kind of climate, the topography, and the kind of landmass. So South Asia, it has some commonality in terms of geographical features. That's why we have taken this question. Now, talking about the introduction part. It is very easy to introduce in these kind of questions because we have been specifically asked about World Network of Biosphere Reserves. So we can directly start with World Network of Biosphere Reserves. Second thing is that we know World Network of Biosphere Reserves is a program by UNESCO. So we can introduce with UNESCO also. So let us see how we can introduce our answer to this question. In introduction, we can directly write about World Network of Biosphere Reserves and highlight its aim. Second thing is we can write about UNESCO because World Network of Biosphere Reserve is a program by UNESCO. Third thing is that we can start by the importance of biodiversity and environmental conservation, because after all biosphere reserves are meant to protect biodiversity and their role is in ecological restoration. So we can also start with highlighting the importance of, we can also introduce with highlighting the importance of biological diversity or biodiversity, highlighting the importance of biological diversity and environmental conservation, okay, environmental conservation, and highlight the importance of WNBR, World Network of Biosphere Reserve for this purpose, World Network of Biosphere Reserve for this purpose. So there are various ways to introduce this answer, but the most specific way will be to directly address the question because it is asking about WNBR, World Network of Biosphere Reserve. So let us start it with defining and stating what is WNBR all about and what it aims for. Okay, so let's see how to introduce it. I request you that as you note down the question and the following points, you also note down the structure. You also note down what I discuss here in terms of options for introduction, options for conclusion, and the other points which I especially highlight that it may be asked in prelims also. As I told that today 3rd November, it is the first International Day for Biosphere Reserves. Starting 2022, it will be celebrated as an international day every year for Biosphere Reserves. So these are crucial points for your prelims exam. Now let's see how to write the introduction of this answer. We can directly start with World Network of Biosphere Reserves. We can write World Network of Biosphere Reserves, Biosphere Reserves, in short WNBR, was created in 1971. So you must be well versed with this type of information to produce a very good introduction. Like, when was the WNBR created? It was created in the year 1971. Now, what it aims for? You need to also mention what it aims for. Its aim is environmental conservation. Its aim is environmental conservation and promoting living in harmony with nature and promoting living in harmony with nature. Harmony with nature. Okay. So if you want, you can underline the terms living in harmony with nature. You can underline 1971. So this is our introduction. As I told you that introduction for 250 words question, answer should not be more than 25-30 words. As we can see here, our introduction is about 23 words, 20 to 23 words. Okay, 20 to 23 words. Likewise, if you daily practice with our session, so it will be very helpful for you to frame very concise introduction and to address the question directly and proceed onwards. What we have done, we have defined World Network of Biosphere Reserve. It was created in 1971. We have provided an information about WNBR because we have to discuss it further in the first part of the question. That's why we have avoided defining it and just provided an important information about its creation in year 1971. And in the later part, we have stated what it aims. It aims environmental conservation and promoting living in harmony with nature. So this is our introduction. Fine. Now let us see what the first sub part of the question is asking. There are two subparts of the question, as it is very easily identifiable. The first part is you have to discuss the World Network of Biosphere Reserve, what it is, what is the present status, how many such sites are there in India and globally, and how the approval is granted, how any site is declared as WNBR. So all those things you have to discuss. That is the first subpart. And in second subpart, you have to explain the importance for India. Why it is important for India, you have to write in detail, because the tail word is explain. You have to write in more detail. In discuss, you write about the general features of anything. You write about the general features and talk about them. While when there is the tag word explain, in explain you have to write in more detail. Write in more detail considering various factors. You also have to give example, and if there are some facts, you have to present the facts also in your explanation. So this is the difference between discussing and explaining. Okay, in explaining we go in much further detail. Okay, so now let us see the first subpart of the question, World Network of Biosphere Reserve. World Network of Biosphere Reserve. Biosphere Reserve, WNBR. Okay, so now let's discuss it. As we have already mentioned in the introduction that when was it created, as well as what it aims for. Now let us define that what it is. As we know that World Network for Biosphere Reserve is a network of global sites of environmental excellence. World Network of Biosphere Reserve is a network of global sites of environmental excellence, which are very crucial from the point of view of environmental excellence. Okay. WNBR is a network of global sites of environmental excellence. It works through cooperation. It works through cooperation and sharing of experiences, knowledge and best practices. Experiences, knowledge and best practices. So this is what WNBR is all about, knowledge and best practices. Okay, so nations which are participants of WNBR, they share and exchange among themselves their experiences of dealing with environment conservation, biodiversity, ecological restoration, as well as you have knowledge exchange and exchange of best practices which nations are undertaking for environmental conservation. So this is what WNBR is about. As we have to discuss, the first point is we discussed what is WNBR. Okay, fine. Now let us see the second point. Why it is important? While we are discussing WNBR, the question arises that why it is important. As we have to discuss, you need to go into all these aspects, why, how, what it is. So this is what discussion is all about. Okay, so as we know that the ecological carrying capacity of Earth is reaching a saturation point. So we need to maintain ecological balance so that the survivability of species on Earth can be maintained. There, the role of WNBR is very important. So we can write Earth's environmental, or we can better write ecological capacity. Ecological capacity. It is a more holistic term. Earth's ecological capacity is reaching a saturation point. Ecological capacity is reaching a saturation point. And WNBR hopes to, aims to, WNBR aims to strengthen ecological restoration for survivability of Earth species. So this is how WNBR aims to work, and it aims for maintaining the survivability of various species through biodiversity and environmental conservation. Now the third point is where these sites are located and how these sites are identified. As we have to discuss, first of all we discuss what it is, second thing is why it is important, okay, why it is important, and the third point now we will come that where these sites are located. This is how you discuss any issue or any particular aspect. It is very important to understand the difference between various tail words or tag words. We also say directive words. As you come across questions in UPSC, you must find the tail words of different questions may be different at times. You have to explain, you have to examine, you have to discuss, you have to evaluate, and then also with the addendum critically. So you have to also critically comment, critically examine and critically analyze. So all these things are completely different. None of the two tail words are same. And if you don't focus on the tail word of any question, so your answer can go in completely wrong direction. That's why I'm telling, while we are discussing, first of all we discussed what it is, second thing is that why was it brought, for what purpose it was brought, and third thing, now where these sites are located. So these sites, WNBR, World Network of Biosphere Reserve sites, are located on land, coasts, as well as oceans, okay. These are located on land, coast as well as oceans. So these sites are found in marine ecosystem also, terrestrial ecosystem also, and coastal ecosystem also. This is an important point to note. Now the third thing is that who decides which site should be designated as WNBR? So it is the national governments which nominate the sites to be declared as WNBR. So it is important that national governments, they don't declare the site as WNBR, as sites of WNBR. They only designate the biosphere reserves and then nominate them to be declared as sites under World Network of Biosphere Reserves, which is declared and designated by the UNESCO under Man and the Biosphere Program, MAB program, okay. So national governments nominate site to be designated under WNBR. In bracket you can write UNESCO MAB program, Man and Biosphere Program. So all these points are important from the point of view of prelims. So we know that World Network of Biosphere Reserves are declared under Man and Biosphere Program of UNESCO. So this point also can be asked in prelims. Second thing is that these sites are located on land, coast as well as in the oceans. So now this was the third point regarding WNBR. Coming to the next point, how these sites are approved. And you must note down one thing, that in our answer we have to progress in a chronological order. In our answers, points should not be haphazard in their order. There should be a chronological order, there should be a logical order in the placement of points, in the order of points. So that makes a good answer. All these things you have to note down, and successively over the sessions and over the days and months, when you will note down all these points, it will cumulatively give you an idea of how to write a good answer. In fact, some of you may even attempt to write perfect answers, which may help you to fetch more and more marks in the written examination, which is very crucial. So now the nations, they nominate their sites, their biosphere reserves to be designated under WNBR. Now what is done? There is an external examination of those sites before being approved by UNESCO. Now this point you need to note. Before approval by UNESCO, before approval, final approval by UNESCO, before final approval by UNESCO, these sites are externally examined. These sites are externally examined, whether they meet the criteria or not, whether they are environmental sites of excellence or not. These sites are externally examined. Okay? After approval, now once they get approval, a proper management plan is devised for each site, and then onwards the site is managed though by the national government, and the sovereignty of those governments remain intact even after the site is declared as under World Network of Biosphere Reserve. The sovereignty of the local government or the national government, it remains intact, but there is a management plan devised for the site, for which the national government also have to work. Now, so they are managed by predefined plans. They are managed by predefined plans, and they are reinforced by credibility checks. After approval, these sites are managed under scientific plan, these sites are managed under scientific plans and reinforced with credibility check, and reinforced with credibility checks, whether the governments are following such plans or not. So there are credibility checks for implementation of the management plans for such sites. So this is how the World Network of Biosphere Reserve works. Now the next logical thing comes into mind, that how many such sites are there across the world. As you see, currently in 134 countries, there are 738 World Network of Biosphere Reserves. If you know this piece of information, it is very good. Okay, you can write. Presently, because you have to discuss about WNBR. Presently, there are 738 WNBR sites in 134 countries. WNBR sites in 134 countries. Can you tell me how many such sites are in India? Under UNESCO, MAB, World Network of Biosphere Reserves, how many sites are in India? Saukat Ali, good evening. Ravikant, good evening. Sir, please describe biosphere source. Ravi, I am not particularly getting your question. Biosphere source, what do you mean by biosphere source? Can you please again put your question with more clarification? Good evening to all of you. Good evening. Welcome to the session. It is a very important class given from the perspective of both prelims and main examination, as well as it will help you in your interview. So now, as I said, that points in your answer should be in a logical order. Okay. The final thing is, how many sites are there presently under WNBR? In 134 countries, 738 sites are there. And how many sites under WNBR are presently in India? Can you please tell me in comment? How many sites, how many biosphere reserves in India come under World Network of Biosphere Reserve by UNESCO? So 12 such sites in India come under World Network of Biosphere Reserve. And the question is also pointing to the context of South Asia. So if you have knowledge about the number of such WNBR sites in South Asia, it will be a very good thing. Like in many countries of South Asia, there are no WNBR sites at all. For example, in Bangladesh, in Bhutan, in Nepal, so there is no such site. But in Sri Lanka, there are 4 sites, and in Maldives, there are 3 sites. So we can write India has, or in South Asia, in South Asia, India has 12 sites and Sri Lanka, India has 12 sites, Sri Lanka and Maldives have 4 and 3 sites respectively. 4 and 3 sites respectively. As I told you that few countries in South Asia, they don't have any biosphere reserve under WNBR. Okay? Ravikant, I request you that you please clarify your question once again so that I can address your query. You have asked to describe biosphere source. I am not understanding what you are trying to ask by biosphere source. Okay? As we know that biosphere is that layer of atmosphere where the elements of life meet, where land, ocean and the atmosphere meets. That is we call biosphere, where the life element exists on the planet. That is called biosphere. So biosphere source, can you please clarify what do you mean to ask? Now, as we have seen that the first part of the question is addressed, it had asked to discuss WNBR and we have done that. Now we come to the second sub part of the question, which is asking importance of WNBR for India in particular and South Asia in general. Okay. Kindly also note down these points as they are very crucial for your prelims and main examination. Okay. So it is now asking importance of WNBR for India and South Asia. So here is the scope for making a map representing the WNBR sites in India, and as we have just discussed that there are 12 biosphere reserves in India under the WNBR program. Okay, so now let us make a map of India and plot all those points. It will be an indicative map. You need not to be very specific. Okay, but inclusion of maps and diagrams in your answer, it enriches the value of answer by large proportion. So it is very important to draw map Now we have to draw a map of India and now indicate, and this is Sri Lanka. So we have to make an indicative map and then we have to plot the 12 points where the WNBR sites are located. We have Nanda Devi, okay, then we have Nokrek, we have Kanchenjunga, then we have Sundarbans, likewise we have Simply Pal here in West Bengal, Simply Pal, okay, then we have here Great Nicobar, likewise we have Panna, Panchmadhi, similarly Agastmalai, Nilgiri, okay, Agastmalai, Nilgiri, okay, then you have Achan Kamar and Amarkantak, Achankamar, Amarkantak. Okay. Now these 12 sites, if I am missing something, you can add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. Okay, and then this is the Gulf of Mannar. Gulf of Mannar. So these are the 12 sites, and if you know these 12 sites, the question is about WNBR. You can make a map of India and plot these 12 sites, and if not all 12, if you can plot even 3, 4 of them, it will add very much value to your answer. So it will be an important addition to your answer, because the question is about WNBR. So the question is about importance of WNBR for India and South Asia in general. So we have drawn a map of outline of India, a rough outline of India, and even if you plot 3 to 4 points, it will be 3 to 4 locations of WNBR in India, it will be sufficient enough. You need not to plot all 12. Okay? So now let me remove it and then write the importance of WNBR sites in India. The first thing is that, and very crucial thing, that India has emerged as a very key player in the global sustainability issues. Okay? Important for India because India has emerged as a key player in global sustainability efforts. That's why it is important for India to manage these WNBR sites and in fact expand their number to lead such global sustainability efforts. And the third thing is that India is also projected to become the most populated nation in the world very soon, or maybe by 2023. India is projected to become most populous nation by 2023. Okay, so as we grow in population, the pressure on environment and ecology, it increases manifold, and to maintain them and to maintain a balance between the population, their need and the environmental aspects, it is very important for India to have these sites, because these sites are very scientifically managed and they play a very crucial role in managing the environmental health. So this is the first thing why these sites are important for India. So first of all, let us write about importance in the Indian context, then we will move on to the South Asian context. The second point in context of India can be, India has diverse biogeographical regions. India has diverse biogeographical regions, particularly so we can write particular focus. India has diverse biogeographical regions. Particular focus can be on the 7 northeastern states. So here WNBR becomes important for India, given that it has a very diverse biogeographical region, and particularly the 7 northeastern states, they are also very rich in biodiversity. So there also WNBR becomes important for India. That was the second point. Now coming to the third point, because we also have to address the South Asian context. Now coming to the third point. See, you must differentiate between biosphere reserves and biosphere reserves under MAB program. So India, we know that there are more than 12 biosphere reserves in India, but means 18 biosphere reserves in India, but all of them are not included in WNBR. Only 12 are included in WNBR. So talking about South Asia has over 30 biosphere reserves. Okay, biosphere reserves. But as we talked earlier, some of the South Asian countries, some of the South Asian countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, like Bangladesh, Bhutan, don't have any WNBR site. Okay, WNBR site. So it is important in the South Asian context that these countries have not any WNBR sites. So there is a strong need for having biosphere reserves designated under World Network of Biosphere Reserves, so that environmental conservation with international standards and the required pace is carried out in these nations. There also the importance of WNBR in South Asian region is underlined. Okay, so this is the second point. Now, as we see that in the South Asian region, there is a strong threat for human survivability as well as the survivability of other species. Okay, so long-term threats of survivability in the region due to biodiversity loss, climate change, pollution, etc. Okay? Hence, WNBR is required to address these problems in a scientific manner in the South Asian region. Okay? Because we see that regional issues of concern like biodiversity loss, climate change, pollution, it can be met through scientific management principles which are undertaken under the WNBR. Hence, WNBR sites, they are important for the South Asian region. So you can also write here, regional issues of concern can be addressed through scientific management under WNBR. Okay, so this highlights the importance of WNBR in the South Asian region. Now coming to the next importance, we know that South Asian region has a very diverse geography and biodiversity. Okay, South Asian region, the next importance, South Asian region has very diverse ecology, for example, glaciers, lakes, alpine ecosystems. Okay, very diverse ecology, for example, glaciers, lakes, alpine ecosystem, etc. To manage such a range of biodiverse region, the World Network of Biosphere Reserve can play a very crucial role in maintaining the diversity. Okay, so that's why it is important in context of South Asian region. Now, the next point is that WNBR can provide local solutions. It can provide local solutions based on indigenous knowledge, based on indigenous practices or knowledge, you can say, local solutions based on indigenous practices. You can also add low cost, because these solutions are most of the time low cost, and they are very important, as we have seen that under the threat of biodiversity loss and issues like pollution, climate change. So we need solutions to this problem, and most of the time we think that only technology is going to help us. But under the Srikant and Gautam, a very good evening to all of you. श्रीकांत जी आपको प्रणाम, आप सबका बहुत स्वागत है आज के क्लास में. श्रीकांत जी आप लगता है आज लेट से आपने ज्वाइन की है क्लास. आप सबसे अनुरोध है कि आप लोग क्लास को शुरुआत से ही ज्वाइन करें और इसका पूरा लाभ लें. लाइव आप आकर मुझसे कमेंट में प्रश्न भी पूछ सकते हैं और मैं आपके प्रश्नों का लाइव उत्तर भी दूंगा. तो ये बहुत जरूरी है. आप सबको प्रणाम और गुड इवनिंग. As we are discussing now, coming to the question again, so we have problems like biodiversity loss and a threat to environment, as well as pollution, and all these problems are there, climate change. So most of the time governments also think towards technological solutions to problems. For example, in Delhi nowadays the pollution level has become severe, and the Delhi government has already installed many anti-smog guns, okay, in various parts of the city. But these technological solutions at times are very capital intensive and they cannot be replicated very easily owing to various technical and other problems. So in such case, low cost sustainable solutions are provided by the local community itself. Indigenous practices, they at times serve as the best solutions for such problems, and WNBR can provide low cost local solution based on indigenous practices. That's why they are important in the South Asian context. Now, as we have seen all this, we can say that how can South Asian nations, many of them who are poor and developing, so it takes a cost for taking conservation efforts, for making climate action efforts. So how these poor and developing countries can implement or can manage such network of biosphere reserves on their own? So obviously, naturally, they need more finance to do that. So in our conclusion, we can end with that. Now the second subpart is also addressed, as we have seen that in the Indian context and in the general South Asian context, we have highlighted the importance of WNBR. Okay, and that was the question all about. Now how to conclude our answer? We have already mentioned all these points. Okay, addressing the question. The conclusion should be, because the focus is on India and South Asia in general, India in particular, South Asia in general, and it is talking about WNBR. We saw that in South Asia, there are over 30 biosphere reserves, but many countries don't have a single WNBR site. Why? There can be many reasons for this. Lack of political will is one of the reasons. Lack of know-how is the second reason. The third reason is that adequate finances are not there with these poor and developing countries. So all these reasons together cause very less number of or inadequate number of WNBR sites in the South Asian region. So we can conclude that rich countries and private parties should provide financial support to the poor and developing countries of South Asia to have or to expand their WNBR sites. Okay, so now let us come to the conclusion. Let us come to the conclusion. More finances or more financial support from developed nations, international agencies, developed nations, international agencies, and private parties, is required to expand the number of WNBR sites in the South Asian region. Expand the number of WNBR sites in India and South Asian region. Now you see that our conclusion is also specifically focused on the question in the South Asian region. And if you count the number of words, I think that it is not more than 24-25 words. Okay, as I told you, introduction conclusion for 250 words question should not be more than 25-30 words. So we are trying to maintain that proportion. Now you see that we have made a suggestive conclusion to the answer, and it is a logical conclusion that there are less number of sites in South Asia. For the sake of perspective, I can tell you that Spain has population of only 5 crore people, and it has, if I'm not wrong, 43 WNBR sites, 43. and a country of the scale of India, okay, with much more larger than Spain, obviously, and India has 1.4 billion people. So we have only 12 WNBR sites in India. So we have less or inadequate number of sites, and many South Asian countries don't have any WNBR site at all. So we can conclude with this for highlighting the need of financial support from different parties. Now, as we see that when we do answer writing for main exam, there are also various elements which are very important from the point of view of prelims. So as we discuss these questions and current affairs on a daily basis, I request you that you kindly note it down from the perspective of prelims also. Okay? You note it down from the perspective of prelims also. Other than the question, let me also give you some information about the programs being initiated by Nishchay IAS, particularly for answer writing. As you see that we are on daily basis discussing important questions of current affairs and also trying to help you in improving your answer writing skills on a daily basis. So this program will continue on YouTube. At the same time, we have daily answer writing program for both UPSC and UPPCS, for UPSC and UPPCS, okay? And we have our test series program. We have our test series program for UPSC, BPSC and UPPCS. For UPSC, BPSC and UPPCS. So I would like that you join these programs for strengthening your answer writing skills, and both of these programs are available in both Hindi and English medium. Okay? So you can join these programs to improve your answer writing. In daily answer writing program, you get your copies evaluated within 24 hours. You have to write 2 questions daily from Monday to Friday, and within 24 hours your evaluated copy is sent to you, as well as model answer will also be provided, and discussion on YouTube will also take place for the daily answer writing program on a daily basis for both UPSC and UPPCS. In test series, you have program for these 3 exams, and there also model answer will be provided, as well as discussion will also take place. So you can kindly contact on the office number for taking admission in these courses. Thanks a lot, and thank you for joining the session. I hope that it has benefited you. I also would like to have your comment and feedback, so how we can improve this program, and also know your opinion about the program. So thanks a lot.